Let's get you some real-time data on what's going on in Africa's youngest state. I'm now joined in studio by Helen Mould, the Information and Communication Manager at Save the Children in South Sudan. She has just returned from that country. Welcome to studio.
Thank you.
What's it like over there?
When I left Juba, the situation was calm but tense. Everyone was wondering if and when the conflict was going to restart in the capital city. But across the country, there's been conflict going on in various different areas, most notably Jonglei, but also Unity and Upper Nile states, which are the oil-producing regions on the border with Sudan. As a result of this crisis, children are extremely vulnerable to displacement, to separation from their families, and to injury and death as well. We believe that hundreds, if not thousands, of people have been killed in the latest violence, and around 100,000 people have been forced to flee their homes. Around 50% of those people are now in UN compounds in Juba, but also other cities as well. But more worryingly, thousands and thousands of people have spread into the vast, remote South Sudanese bush, where they have no access to any support at all.
So in short, this figure that we're seeing from the Office of Humanitarian Assistance of about 81,000 or so displaced persons could actually be much, much higher. Today,
the latest statistics that I've read says 92,000 displaced people, but with the caveat that the number is likely to be much higher. It's just that aid agencies in the UN haven't been able to access all areas of South Sudan to verify how many people have actually been displaced.
Okay, working with the numbers we have, what are the immediate needs of those who have been displaced by the violence?
Yes, when I was in the UN compounds in Juba, people were telling me that they'd fled their homes with nothing. They're too scared to leave the camps, and so they haven't been able to go back to their homes to get belongings. Most people that I met didn't have shelter. They were living under a blanket or a sheet. So there's urgent needs for shelter, for food, for clean water, but also sanitation and healthcare services to prevent the spread of disease. Save the Children had brought in its first plane load of humanitarian aid on Christmas Eve. And we're planning to bring in another plane load of aid from Nairobi on Saturday. We're going to be distributing this to those families and to children living in the UN compounds in Juba to provide them with assistance, as well as supporting children who might have been separated from their families during the conflict or whose parents have been killed. But we are extremely worried that we're not able to access the town of Bor. The conflict that's raging around there means that no aid agencies are able to get in and provide humanitarian assistance. So you've got between 17 and 20,000 people in that UN compound there who are really on their own at the moment and who urgently need our support.
What needs to be done in order to bring this conflict to your end from the perspective of Save the Children?
It's an incredibly complex situation. I mean, South Sudan is an incredibly complex country, but what we need right now is a cessation of all hostilities. All sides need to commit to peace and to peaceful dialogue, and that's necessary so organisations like Save the Children can access all areas of the country where there are people in urgent need of humanitarian support, and to prevent further children and families from being affected by this conflict.
Indeed. We'll have to leave it there for the time being, though. Thank you very much for your update.
Thank you.
That, of course, is Helen Mould. She's the Information and Communication Officer with Save the Children, operating, of course, in South Sudan. She's just back from that country.